Give me 5 minutes of your silence, and I'll take from you something you were never meant to carry. Not by filling your ears with sugar-dipped motivation, not by repeating mantras or cliches, but by stripping down the fiction you've mistaken for truth. That story you tell yourself, the one where you're too soft, too anxious, too late, it's a lie. A polished, rehearsed lie you've carried like an heirloom, so long it feels like a limb. But it isn't you. It never was. It's a costume stitched by fear, handed down by a world that benefits from your doubt. And the second you stop defending it, the second you let your breath slow and listen without flinching, something inside you breaks. But not like a glass shattering, more like a shell cracking open. And what emerges isn't a better version of you. It's the true one, the buried one, the version that was waiting for you to stop asking permission to be powerful. Understand this first. Friedrich Nietzsche didn't write for the gentle-hearted or the perpetually unsure. He didn't comfort the broken. He lit a match and tossed it into the silence, watching who stayed to feel the heat. He spoke to those who had already tasted the bitterness of truth and were still hungry for more. Not because they wanted to suffer, but because they were tired of pretending, tired of waiting, tired of dressing their potential in apologies. And if you've made it here, if your knuckles are tired from gripping your own leash, then this isn't the start of your transformation. It's the return to what was always inside you, buried beneath obedience, trained into stillness, drowned out by every voice that told you your softness was a virtue. But here's the riddle. What does it actually mean to be weak? Most people think it's about crying too much, or not being tough, or struggling with discipline. That's surface talk. That's what weak people say about weakness. Look deeper. Weakness is needing someone else to tell you what you're worth. Weakness is silence when you should roar. Weakness is not shedding your truth just to be liked. It's never knowing what your truth even was. It's dressing your fear up as humility, calling your avoidance peace. It's whispering, "I'm fine," while you suffocate under expectations that don't belong to you. Weakness is not about emotion. It's about submission, the act of abandoning yourself so others can feel comfortable around your light. The world you were born into thrives on that kind of weakness. From the moment you could walk, you were taught to sit still, to color inside lines, to raise your hand, wait your turn, smile when you're scared. And you learned it well. You learned to suppress the wild. You learned to fold your voice into neat sentences. You learned that truth is only acceptable when it doesn't offend. And all the while, the world kept clapping for your compliance, not because it made you stronger, but because it made you manageable, predictable, harmless, and forgettable. Nietzsche saw this coming long before it was fashionable to complain about it. He said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. And that struggle isn't fought with fists. It's fought in silence, in moments when your instincts scream and your conditioning pulls you back into the cage of manners, of safety, of approval. The world doesn't want you to be dangerous. It wants you polished, smiling, agreeable." Nietzsche didn't write for the agreeable. He wrote for the one who's ready to set fire to the mask. If you've ever said yes when you wanted to scream no, if you've ever swallowed your truth just to be seen as nice, if you've ever called your exhaustion self-care while knowing deep down you were just avoiding responsibility, then you already know the cost of weakness. You wear it in your posture, your habits, your hesitation. You call it being a good person. But it's just forgetting that real goodness is rooted in honesty, not obedience. That real strength doesn't need to yell. It simply refuses to kneel. Let's talk about how weakness disguises itself in the everyday. It's not some dramatic breakdown. It's in how you wake up and reach for your phone before you even breathe with intention. It's how you let algorithms shape your mood before your feet hit the floor. That's not laziness. That's surrender. That's allowing the world to dictate your reality before you've even remembered you're the author. And Nietzsche would call that a form of self-betrayal. He said, "He who cannot command himself must obey." And every time you scroll before you create, every time you let reaction replace reflection, you're not just wasting time, you're weakening your command. Start here. Reclaim your morning. Not with a perfect routine, not with a 5 a.m. miracle formula. Just by remembering you're not a consumer first, you're a force. Your breath, your focus, your posture, these are not trivial details. They're signals to your nervous system about who's in charge. Stand like someone who owns the room, even if it's empty. Sit like someone who isn't asking to be tolerated. That's not arrogance. That's reclamation. And it doesn't stop with your body. Weakness leaks through your mouth too. In the way you soften your voice. In the way you say maybe when you mean no. In the way you explain yourself to people who aren't listening. Power doesn't explain. Power speaks, then waits. And the silence that follows? That's where respect is born. Most people are afraid of silence. You won't be. Because you'll understand that tension is where gravity lives. When your words carry weight, people feel them in their bones. Not because you yelled, but because you didn't flinch. Now, let's dismantle a myth that's been coddling your weakness for too long. You think being emotional makes you fragile. That if you cry, if you care, if you feel deeply, you're soft. That's wrong. That's not strength or weakness. That's biology. The real question isn't, do you feel? It's, can you command what you feel? Do you have the clarity to stand still in your pain and still make a powerful decision? Can you hold fire in your chest and not let it burn down the room? That's power. That's control. And if you don't have that yet, it's not because you're broken. It's because you haven't trained. But now, you will. Because here's the truth, Nietzsche never sugarcoated. No one is coming to save you. And anyone who promises to is lying or selling something. Life doesn't hand out meaning. It doesn't reward potential. It only responds to decision. If you don't choose your direction, someone else will choose it for you. And what they choose will be small, convenient, comfortable, and it will slowly kill everything sharp and divine inside of you. You will not let that happen. You will make a decision, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now, decide what you protect, what you refuse, what you serve. Decide what parts of yourself you will no longer water down for anyone. And when you do, you'll feel the weakness retreat. You'll feel the stories lose their grip. Because once you choose your standard, life has no choice but to respond. And now something is stirring. Not outside you, but inside. A remembering. A reconnection to something you lost under all the pretending. It's not motivation. It's not hype. It's not inspiration. It's alignment. You're almost home. You're still here. That means something ancient in you isn't flinching. You're not clicking away. You're not numbing out. That quiet urge to disappear when things get uncomfortable. It's losing its grip. And that means you're ready for the next fracture. The kind that doesn't break you, but frees you. Most people, when faced with their weakness, panic. They run. They deny. They blame circumstances, childhood, genetics, the system, anything to avoid the mirror. But you're still listening. That means the shell is thinning. And what's about to emerge is not a better self, but a real one. You've been taught to associate strength with noise, with bravado, with shouting the loudest or proving your worth through applause. That's not power. That's theater. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It's presence, stillness, the kind of gravity that makes people adjust their tone when you walk into a room. Not because you threaten them, but because they can feel that you don't need them. This is what Nietzsche was pointing toward. Not domination, not arrogance, but sovereignty. The quiet, unshakable knowing that nothing outside you can define you. Not praise, not rejection, not even love. And that's terrifying, isn't it? Because we've all built scaffolding around needing to belong, wanting to be accepted, being afraid of standing alone. But let's pull the thread on that. Why is being alone so unbearable for most people? Because they've never met themselves in solitude. They've only known themselves through mirrors. Other people's approval, their validation, their attention. Strip that away, and they don't know who's left. But you're about to meet them. The version of you who's been waiting patiently behind the noise. The one who doesn't care if they're seen, because they see. You were trained to be agreeable, to shrink in moments of tension, to smooth the edges of your truth so you'd be easier to digest. But here's the price. Every time you chose acceptance over authenticity, something inside you dimmed. Not all at once, slowly. A quiet erosion of power. A trade. Your soul for silence. And now you're waking up to that cost. And it's okay to grieve what you gave up. The years you spent deluding yourself. The friendships you maintained out of fear, not love. The relationships where you shrank just to keep the peace. That grief isn't weakness, it's clarity. And clarity is always the beginning of power. So now let's go to war with one of the most dangerous habits of all. Procrastination. Everyone talks about it like it's laziness, but that's a lie. Procrastination is fear in disguise. It's a hidden loyalty to your past. A psychological contract you signed long ago to stay small, invisible, non-threatening. To dim your intensity so others wouldn't feel inadequate. You learned to delay your power, not because you didn't want it, but because somewhere along the line, you decided you didn't deserve it, or worse, that it would make you alone. But now you rip that contract up. Because the truth is, every time you procrastinate, you're not just delaying action, you're denying transformation. You're clinging to comfort at the cost of your evolution. And evolution doesn't wait. It doesn't care if you're scared. It requires sacrifice, the death of who you were, the burial of who others think you are. And that death is painful. Make no mistake. That's why most people never change. They'd rather be liked than reborn. But you didn't come here to be digestible. You came here to be undeniable, to be remembered not for your compliance, but for your clarity. So stop saying maybe when you mean no. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop over-explaining your decisions. You don't owe anyone a user manual for your soul. You are not a question mark. You are a statement, a presence, a force. Start acting like it. And that means paying attention to the micro movements, the way you sit, the way you speak, the way you breathe when things get tense. Weakness hides in your posture, in your voice cracking when it should cut, in your shoulders curling when they should expand. Most people move like prey, shrinking, twitching, apologizing with their body language. You won't. From now on, you move like someone who's decided, someone who doesn't need to be told what they are, because they've already chosen it. Every room you walk into, you enter with quiet certainty, not a need to impress, but a refusal to vanish. You don't chase energy, you hold it. And when people speak, you listen, not to respond, but to see. That's presence. That's what separates the forgettable from the unforgettable. Now let's kill something sacred. Victimhood. We've been sold the lie that pain makes us special. That trauma earns us identity. That suffering is a badge. It's not. It's an initiation. Only if you walk through it. Nietzsche didn't despise suffering. He despised people who built altars to it. He knew that victimhood is seductive because it requires nothing. Just stories. Just blame. Just waiting. But suffering alone doesn't make you strong. only transformation does. Pain isn't your power. What you do with it is. So stop calling yourself broken. Stop labeling your struggle as identity. You don't get to camp in your pain and expect respect. You must build something from it. Forge something. Let your scars become your steel. Because here's what no one wants to say. No one really cares what you went through. Not deeply. Not long term. They care about what you become despite it. Become someone so magnetic, so sharp, so precise in your presence that your pain becomes irrelevant, that your history becomes legend. That's power. And power begins with choosing your why, not finding it, choosing it. You don't wait for meaning to arrive. You declare it. You build it with your actions. And the moment you do, the distractions start to die. The noise fades. The need for external validation begins to dissolve. Because now you're not drifting. You're aimed. So choose your why. Choose who you serve. Choose what you protect. Choose the line you will never cross again. Not because it's popular, but because it's yours. Carve it into your days. Write it down. Make it non-negotiable. And from that place, everything else aligns. Weakness hates clarity. It thrives in confusion, in half-decisions, in waiting for someone else to make the call. But you're done waiting. You are the call. And if that means some people drift away, let them. If it means some opportunities vanish, good. It means they were never meant for your real self. Only for your mask. Let it all fall away. Because what's left, when the apologies, the hesitation, the fear, the old stories finally dissolve, is something rare, something dangerous, not chaotic, but undeniable. And you will carry it not in your voice, but in your stillness, in the way you no longer flinch, in the way you no longer need to explain your piece. And the world will notice, not because you asked it to, but because you'll stop needing it to.